30 lakhs students in India. So that's their mission. So they have frozen timeline, they have frozen number of meals, minimum number of meals, and this is their mission. And that's why you always hear the word mission accomplished. You set the mission and you accomplish. Vision is something perhaps you are never able to fulfill at least in your lifetime, but you have that vision to do that. For example, I want to eradicate poverty in India. That's a definite. That is definitely a very good vision. But I need to really make a short step and bifurcate into a different mission so that I really go at least in that direction. That's why when you do any pre-feasibility, you'll get thousands of ideas about it, about a lot of things. Maybe right now people are talking about, let's say, hygienization tunnel. And just because people are talking and you think you can also make it, you should not jump on it. You should definitely see your mission and vision. If you are just jumping just because everyone is talking about it, believe me, you'll never stand apart from the crowd, because there is nothing unique. Again, nothing wrong, nothing right, but then you're not keeping yourself honest towards your company's goal. That's why it's very, very, very important to say no as well to many ideas and in many pre-feasibilities actually. And one of the simplest thing before you do anything about any pre-feasibility, maybe I come to you and say, hey, I have biodegradable plastic bag, and you guys are anyway working in this field, a little different, but something like this. Would you like to shake hand and take it further? I don't know. I really need to see how do I define my mission and vision. If my mission is actually to do the gardening and to really ensure that I'm covering this much of earth area for agriculture, but I'm using some plastic, etc. So maybe I can be a consumer, but I don't want to be one of their extended hand then, as far as the company's mission and vision is concerned. So be very clear, when you start talking about mission and vision. Again, this all sounds very theoretical many times just because you don't have a feel about it. But these are very, very, very practical parameters, and this will help you guys to judge yourself and judge your ideas against several parameters to go ahead or not to go ahead. Once again, you are doing pre-feasibility only to ensure whether or not you have to go to the feasibility step, because feasibility steps normally encompasses a lot of expenses, a lot of manpower, other bandwidth. So you need to be very sure about it, and this is one of the check which you are doing, whether or not it really fits with your original company's goal or mission and vision. Okay, let me come back to the innovation part. So one of the common misconception is that people consider innovation as invention, which is only partially true. Unless until you don't commercialize it, your model is not sustainable. And at the beginning, I told you many times people are also confused between sustainability and viability. Sustainability doesn't need to be coming from your viewpoint. It can be also external supported. And again, under sustainability, you have technical sustainability, you have financial sustainability, and you have social sustainability. It should not be like, if you want to start selling comb to a bald guy, if you want to start selling beef in a country like India, if you want to start selling like something which is not liked by people, but you just want to enforce that. Maybe technically you are equipped, maybe financially as well, but socially you are not equipped over there. So it's a very simple check. You can say at the beginning itself, sorry, it doesn't fit. It's not feasible. You really don't need to really go into depth and really consider. So whatsoever you feel is not working, be brave enough to say no. One of the skill which you really need to learn in your entrepreneurship journey is to say no, no, no. That's it. As simple as it. So you can put this word in capital letter, N or no. Again, it's very, very simple for me to tell you, but you'll understand when you start incorporating this in your real life, when you start doing the pre-feasibility. And although you think, once again, let's say hygienization tunnel, it sounds very simple, it sounds easy, and you think that right now there is a lot of business. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry is jumping. Why not me? I will earn something, but really it doesn't help you. Really, it doesn't help you because you need to see the wider impact of it. So I think with this, we are ready to talk about our entrepreneurship journey. Um, how many of you think that the path of an entrepreneur, or at least you have a feel about it? Okay, just write yes, no, yes, no. Huh? It's okay. Okay, okay. Interesting. Huh? If you know your path as closest as possible, then believe me, you can really go places. That's really, really as simple as it. If you don't know, then you're learning every day, and that's how life is, and that's what I personally believe. At least I don't know. Um, but nevertheless, let me take you through the entrepreneurship journey. You'll see this in many of the books. In almost all my lectures in IIM Ahmedabad, I keep this graph because personally I love it actually. There is extrapolation of this graph as well. We talk from the business life cycle point of view. We talk from the product life cycle point of view. But let me just take it in a very simple manner before before we make it complicated, and then perhaps we can do some we can have a little break. It will be almost an hour. Yeah? Okay, so I will talk about the industry life cycle, or just business life cycle, just or sometimes very, very loosely you can say ideal life cycle, etc. What are the states you basically take? So on y-axis you see profit and loss. Loss is nothing but negative profit. So I can simply say that on y-axis you see the profit. On x-axis you see the timeline. And by the way, this is true for everyone, be it Ambani or be it you or be it me, anyone who has really gone through the entrepreneurship journey from scratch. They will talk about it. They will understand this curve in a manner. Yeah. So let me just take it, and then we'll go through it, and then we'll take a small break, and then we'll handle some question before we go to the next step. Okay, so let's start from day zero. So you have some idea, you start doing some research kind of thing, and as soon as you start your journey, you see you start losing money. I mean, as soon as you start the journey, you start losing money. As simple as that. You have to put money. You need resources. You need I don't know, technical equipment perhaps. If it's just the tech thing, you need licenses for software, etc. But the fact remains that you start losing money, and then you are doing some kind of research. The name research itself talks volume. It's re and then search. So basically you are searching something again and again and again. So that's why the word research is there, till a point where you say, aha, now I'm ready for development. So I know now what I'm talking about. I know now at least I want to give it a try, and that's why I want to go for the development part. And again you start losing money, even to a greater depth. You're going further, further, further down, and then you develop it. But as soon as now you start thinking about technology transfer or product launch, you can see the slope of the curve changes actually. You are actually now even spending more money into the whole idea. So more money, more money, more money. And after the product launch, the phase is called commercialization phase. Um, there is something called value of depth. So basically you go down and suddenly you are going up. But imagine if you put a ball here, and I'm very sure all of you have heard simple harmonic motion or just harmonic motion. So if you just put a ball here, it will go down, up, down, up, down. It's called value of death. Believe me or not, almost 99.4% of the world's startups, they are into value of death. Be it from India, be it from Israel or Silicon Valley. They sometimes you feel good, sometimes you feel bad, good, bad, good, bad. And this is exactly the point where you need an external thrust. The thrust can be in many, many forms. You guys are incubated, incubated. The thrust can come from mentorship point of view, from money point of view, or investment point of view, from guidance point of view, from facility point of view, or it can be in many, many, many forms. But you definitely need the thrust. Otherwise, you will never be able to take this slow. Or what may happen if you just want to go organic, this curve will become flat. So it will not going it will not be going like this, it will go like this. So it will start taking more time. So again, more time, more time, more time, but you have to be realistic, right? You cannot just keep losing time. And when you have a break even, so basically at this moment of time, when you are sure that now onwards you are going to make profit, as simple as it. You have enough push or you have enough thrust. So there is a concept called push pull. So you needed a push here, and then the market pulls you. That's the ultimate thing in life, or in a life of an entrepreneur, the push pull thing. You need a push and the market has to pull it. And this is where your journey is really there, or you can enjoy your journey as a successful businessman. Otherwise, as I told you, many of the world's company, they actually die in the valley of death, as simple as it. Or at least they don't progress, even though they are on the positive side, they don't progress. If they are not open for inorganic growth, many times, if they are not accepting any help or any other thrust which is required. Anyways, so this is in a nutshell. We can keep talking about it because in reality it is never a straight line, right? Like, it's always like up down, up down, up down, up down, up down, sometimes more up down, up down, but the nature of the curve remains the same. That's the whole idea. So with this, maybe we can take 2 minutes of break. It's almost an hour, but please do let me know if you have any question, specifically from pre-feasibility point of view, specifically from your entrepreneurship journey point of view. But whatever I told you till this slide, be it going from place A to place B, so everywhere you can see it's just about your journey. It's just about your entrepreneurship journey and nothing more, nothing less. As simple as that. So as I told you, please let me know if you have any questions, and then we again start with another 1 hour of presentation. What to consider as a business success? I tell you, realistically, it's only about money, which people talk about. Kindly mute yourselves. Thank you. So the question was, let me just see, what to consider as a business success. So you can see success as a business. Here I'm talking from hardcore money point of view. It's just profit versus time. And this is how the world looks at you, that you are making enough money. Of course, if you are doing some impact based, or you're leading some impact based company, or NGOs or NPO. So over there, money is not the criteria of business success. Here, I'm talking about a for-profit company. So for-profit, the success is just to make enough money, and this curve actually talks about that. Of course, we can keep talking about business success, how to define it, but I would say that it's very much individualistic as well. If you like to really serve hungry just by cooking food and giving to them, like Akshay Patra is doing. So that is the success for them, and that's their business. I mean, business doesn't need to be defined in terms of money as per them, because that's easier. That's how business success is defined from money point of view. And of course, one of the toughest part is to keep yourself successful. So basically, what we have not shown here, after this, there is a saturation point, and then the curve goes even down. So that's why it's very important that you re reinvent everything at the same time. That's why you need to have a research department, R&D department. Small companies and businesses cannot afford R&D department. That's why there are institutes like IIT or other research institutes. If you're talking about agriculture-based thing, that's why there are agriculture university. So even though you cannot afford R&D department by yourself, you can take their help. But that's more about the holistic thinking. But coming back to your question, business success is as simple as it, financial success. Any question? And don't worry about raising the question. I will be more than happy to answer any question related to pre-feasibility or whatever slides I showed you. So don't hesitate. It's your time only to ask question. So the question is this feasible to get energy at the product launch? So to cross the valley, if yes, what can be a way to get the energy at the product launch? So basically, what you are talking about changing the slope, nothing else. So if you can see my cursor, so from here you want to flatten it actually, yeah, of course, but you have to. The curve will remain like this. The nature of curve will remain like this. The only thing is that you can flatten it a little bit, or as much as possible, and then you go up. So basically, it never happens. Never ever happens. Even with the big companies, it never happens. Let's talk about Pulse, this candy. They did a big pre-feasibility in Gujarat, and then they got a very good how do you say response. And then they did a pre-feasibility, not even the feasibility. Huh? They did a pre-feasibility all over India, and then they did a feasibility, and then they launched a product. But it took a lot of time for them to incorporate in a proper supply chain or in the mainstream supply chain. So all these things actually incurs a lot of money, right? So what I really mean is that when you are going down, so basically you are incurring loss. It's just the negative profit or is the loss vertical, the Y vertical. So if you want to flatten it, I at least it's not so straightforward. Let's talk about Windows, for example. Windows 8. I know when I was working for Shell, Shell was one of the participant to develop Windows 8. So they were supposed to get the Windows 8 as soon as the product launches. Huh? So basically, with Microsoft, then as soon as they launch, the curve should be flattened and then it should go up. So they try to make it flatten because they did the pre-booking of such kind of product. They try to get the investment from the strategic partners who can be their customer. But that altogether is a different story. But nevertheless, the nature of curve will remain same, and I don't think you can skip it. You can only flatten it, and then you can get this success as a business very fast. But yeah, that happens rarely, to be very honest. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it really depends on the product. It really depends on the kind of goodwill you have in market. It really depends how good your pre-feasibility and then the feasibility is. As I told you, Microsoft tried to get investor in the form of the customers who could actually buy their product, and that was one of the very good strategy from a very intelligent strategy from the Microsoft. So if you are talking about such kind of thing, in that case also you can flatten the curve, but you can never escape the curve, this value of death. And
Uh,
many of the product.
Actually,
Sorry, go ahead.
uh, yeah, sir. Actually, sorry for like asking you via mic. So actually, what I wanted to ask is, sir, what if just someone gets some sort of funding at the product launch, and I just wanted to ask that, is this possible to just reduce the time of oscillation in the value of death, rather than not rather than skipping it, we can just do it like we can just cross this value of death in a one short thing. That was my motive for the
Okay.
question.
Okay, got it, got it. But that's what I was saying. Of course, fair enough. So that's what I was telling you, that when you are here in the valley of death, you need a push, you need a thrust, huh? And the thrust can be there from in many ways you can get the thrust, be it in the form of the money. But even though I give you the money, enough money. One of the question which I asked to many aspiring entrepreneurs, which I have not asked you guys today because that's not the how do you say topic today. But I asked that if God is there in front of you, and if He ask me one thing and I will give you, so what will be the one thing? And believe me, 99.9% people are not able to answer this very clearly. What is the one thing? So let's say even though you get the money, let's say you get enough money, and that is one of the mistake many companies do, that they raise a lot of fund in the Series A itself, and they are not able to perform, and in Series B then they simply go flat. Huh? Funding can be one of the criteria, but it's not the only criteria. That's why the holistic approach is very much important. That's why you need to be very clear about your pre-feasibility and what exactly do you require. There is a company called Number Nagar. I don't know if you know. It's a startup. Um, they do. They are into edutech in educational technology field, and what they did, they asked Times Now to be one of the investor. So Times Now said, okay, I can be one of the investor, and I will give you 2 crore, but I will not give you in the form of money. What I will do, I will give you enough advertisement in Times Now equivalent to 2 crore. So you can choose the slot. So you see, they didn't get the money, but from holistic point of view, one of the factor was that people see their name and they say, aha, I want my children to really use Number Nagar or their technical skill to really push this. So I don't know how many of you have seen Namarnagar advertisement, but nevertheless, let me just tell you. So that was one of the things that was not in the form of finance, but it was equivalent to that. So you need to really, incorporate, or you really need to analyze first in the pre-feasibility and then in feasibility. What are the factors which will affect your um, thrust? So the thrust factors needs to be properly analyzed, and then accordingly you need to work on it. So the money is not the only thing. Money is one of the things for sure. I fully agree. But even though you get the money, if you're not able to utilize it properly, that's even the worst thing I'm telling you, which many of the startups have done, and they simply go flat. The idea is not to stay here and not to get thrust. So let me just put it other way around in a very simpler term. So let's say I give you a thrust, then you go a little up, then you again go a little up, then you go a little up. The idea is that you come to a point where you can be self-propagating, actually, propelling yourself, and then the market should be able to pull it. This is the market pull. But if you are behind this, then there is a big probability that you'll again slide back. It's as simple as it. So that's why analyze the thrust, and that's again one of the idea of today's presentation, the pre-feasibility. That's why you need the pre-feasibility and then the feasibility. Otherwise, why do you need? But the question is correct. The answer is very simple. Analyze the thrust and work on it. Any more question, please? Okay. Then I will take the journey further. I think I got a couple of more questions. Just again, I missed it. I heard most of the government-based startup faces lots of problems. can I know what and how to face those problems? I don't know what you want to ask, but the answer is very simple. Normally, I don't like to generalize anything. If you're saying that government-based startups faces a lot of problems, I want to know what kind of problem it is. Otherwise, I will not be able to answer your thing, or maybe I will just give you something general and then you like it, but nothing happens in reality. The idea of today's presentation is that you get a feel and then you use such kind of knowledge in reality, and then you come out with something fruitful. So I don't know the problems. Can I know what and how to face those problems? So the answer is very simple. Analyze the problem. Be very concrete in defining the problem. The problem can only be under three different vertical. As I told you, it can be technical vertical, it can be under financial vertical, or it can be under social vertical. So many times people complain if it's a governmental thing, then perhaps they are facing corruption as a problem. One of my colleague, Amit in Ahmedabad, he even teaches corruption. Huh? So you need to really model it out. Giving up is not a solution. At least I don't believe in that. You need to really work on it. You're saying my startup is related to traffic lights. So in order to get the access for traffic light from government, you see, this is the right thing what you need now. So you define the problem. So you need to see what approach you need to take. Let's say you need access for traffic lights from government. You need to be very realistic in your approach. So let's say I do a pre-feasibility. I need to firstly see if the government can even give an access to any private company. Is it really possible? You can think in a more technical manner and in a more practical manner as well. So perhaps not. If they start doing this, then chaos may occur. Then a lot of people will say what to do, why to do, and blah blah blah. But nevertheless, maybe they are doing it. I don't know how. If they are doing it, then you need to figure it out to whom did they do and what were the criteria under which they really gave the access. Let's say ambulances you wrote, which makes sense for me. Yeah. Because of the emergency thing, you need to give an access. I don't know how many of you know. At least in Europe and in India, at all the expressways, you can see there is an emergency line. We don't follow the emergency line, but even in one of the worst traffic in Europe, I have seen people didn't go and use the emergency lane because that was for emergency, that was for ambulance, etc. So what I'm saying that you need to really ensure two things: whether it is possible. If it's not, then forget it. If it's possible and it has been done in the past or maybe in any of the state in India, then how did they do it? In government, what I have realized, that's my personal experience. You need to do, or you need to take two approaches at the same time, which earlier I used to think it's never a good idea. So one is bottom up, and second is top down. So you need to press, or you need to take these two steps simultaneously. Then only you can accelerate the governmental system. Otherwise, it takes ages. I will show you one of the case study which I did when I came to India, and I thought, wow, I have done so good now. Everyone will praise this, that, and from business point of view, I'll get a lot of business. And it took me almost 9 years to come to a point where government finally launched a policy, and they allocated 75,000 crore 2 years ago to ensure that this happens. But at the beginning, nothing happens. It almost took me 8 to 9 years to come to this point. So working with government might be a very different subject. And the pre-feasibility, when you do with the government, my only suggestion would be that you involve one person at least in your team who understands the bureaucracy, who understands or who has some experience in handling government. Otherwise, this can be very demotivating, and it will kill a lot of time, money, energy, enthusiasm. And one of the worst thing that will happen is that you will start blaming the system. Blaming the system will never help you. You will start blaming ये नहीं होता है, वो नहीं होता है. It can never happen in India. So So don't do this. But if you already have any case study where they have given such kind of permission, then it's a good sign actually. You just need to understand how did they really approach, and then try to replicate the same in your case as well. Okay. Any more question, please? Because I think you guys already have a lot of knowledge, or at least the questions and experience. So even though you share with or among yourself, that itself will solve a lot of problems. And this is not anything theoretical whatsoever I'm saying. I really mean it whatsoever I'm saying, as simple as it. Okay. So I come to the next slide if you don't have any more question. So the idea over here, or of today's today's presentation was to really give you knowledge and feel about the pre-feasibility study. But I keep talking about what comes before, what comes after, and all this kind of thing. And I just wanted to start with something which makes more sense for you guys, something which you can visualize, and something which you can incorporate in your real life as well. But if you talk about AACE, if you don't know AACE, then you should visit their site. It's American Association for Cost Engineering. They do a lot of modeling. They do a lot of cost engineering, etc. And it's quite interesting actually, because the whole idea over here, what you see is to reduce the funnel size, right? Because you have something just as an idea, and then you want to really choose one out of it at the end. So it's a big journey actually. Yeah. You talk about several steps. You talk about exploration. You talk about concept. You talk about scoping study. You talk about pre-feasibility study. That's our that's our point or topic for today. You talk about feasibility study, you talk about implementation, you talk about operation, and then finally, you go to that point. So there are a lot of steps into it. Huh? It's not a single step. The only difference is that you have to make sure that when you go from A to B, then then the confidence level, if you see the accuracy level, or whatever you talk about here, the accuracy level should become more and more, or other way around, the accuracy level should be more accurate, or the estimated accuracy should become lesser. In other words, the confidence level is very accurate, should be as less as possible. So if I'm talking about, let's say 1 rupee, it should not vary between 10 rupees and 0. The variance should not be very high. So, but anyways, so you see, whatever we are talking, at every step there is a decision point. I hope you can see my cursor. And then at this decision point, you don't need to be really emotional. You can just be realistic and say, okay, no problem. Let's call it a day. We explore another one. Huh? Then you can go back and start exploring something else. One of the very stringent step could be that you say that because of COVID-19 situation, I don't think my business idea will work anymore. So I have to really go back to the exploration stage and start from the scratch instead of really being demotivated here. But that's really one of the very worst step. But anyway, so at every decision point, if you can see, we have put the accuracy level, what's the estimate of the accuracy, and this is from AAC, not from my personal side. So, so once again, you explore something and then you have a concept, huh? And the decision point can be whether or not this fits with our mission, vision, our skill set, our let's say even in incubation center, do you get such kind of mentor or support or something like this? Huh? So it should be more holistic here as well. And then you say, okay, let's go to the take step. And here again, if you see, it's mainly based out of experience and internet survey as well sometimes here, where people are sharing their experience, and then you say, okay, let me just see what kind of scoping study I can do. Maybe some case study is available. It can never be perhaps exactly the same, but it can always be similar kind of thing. One of the very interesting thing about the case study, which I personally like, is that if someone has already made a mistake, then why should I repeat the mistake? I should simply read such kind of case study and understand from that. I don't know how many of you read the books related to investment, etc. But for example, one of the mistake, or one of the weak point in the startup, especially when you have the people from engineering background, is that you don't have marketing arm. I mean, all the engineering guys, they are not very good from marketing point of view. I'm just generalizing it, so just excuse me in case you feel you're good. Of course, that nothing like it. But normally, all the engineering guys, they have some very good products and they want to market it, and they are not able to do this. Maybe one or two, but when I talk about marketing, it should be in volume, right? Yeah? And so what they do, they hire someone experienced, and they want to really utilize the funding to finance this guy, and hoping that this guy will bring some good amount of orders. But in many cases, it has been seen, especially even though you have some good marketing guy who was performing very well in some established country, he's not able to perform within 3 to 4 months in a startup. And the blame game starts from here, because you guys want, or you are assuming that you're paying him quite a lot, which is true in a startup. And on the other hand, the guy is thinking that you guys are not well equipped from technical point of view, which is not very practical in market, and perhaps you are not even listening. So instead of the solution is that instead of hiring such kind of people, you just give them equity, not the sweat equity, but it can be something like ESOP firm, and you make sure that they feel the pain. It should not happen that they are working without understanding the pain of the startup. But nevertheless, what I'm saying that is very important, the scoping study. That is not the topic for today. But anyway, this is a general one. And again, based on the experience, you can go to the pre-feasibility stage. And this is what we are actually today concentrating on. So we are talking about a confidence level of or accuracy of, let's say, -30% and +50%, which itself is quite high. And AC also defines a different class before you jump to the final one. So this falls under class 4. And the estimation method, it can be parametric. But what I'm emphasizing, or what I was emphasizing at the beginning, is that this is mainly based on secondary data. In pre-feasibility, normally you don't go for the primary data. In feasibility, actually, you do the primary as well as the secondary data. But in pre-feasibility, it is mainly based on secondary data. And then accordingly, you take a call to go to the feasibility stage or not. In pre-feasibility, you have several options available, and which is very important. If you see, every time we are just trying to reduce the options, but in pre-feasibility, at least you go in a little depth, but based on experience, based on your feel as well. It can be that, okay, let's select. So let's say from A to B, if it's a normal situation, I will perhaps only select flight and or train. These are the two options which I have in the pre-feasibility stage. Maybe bus as well, but I don't have any other option in pre-feasibility stage. If I have to go from Varanasi to, how do you say, Varanasi to Delhi, and the and then I see that we have enough money to afford. The train will cost us perhaps 2,000 rupees, flight perhaps 3,000. It's not a lot of difference, but In train, I can directly connect myself or go to the place where the meeting is happening. But if I go from the flight, then in Varanasi, I have to go from my place to airport. That takes X amount of time, and that also involves the money. And then in Delhi itself, so there are many. How do you say? Um, there are many factors, of course, but you are just trying to analyze it holistically. Okay, this might be the case, this might not be the case, and overall, perhaps 4,000 I will spend when I'm going by flight, but when I'm going by train, it's perhaps 2,500. So the difference is not much. It's 1,500, but for me, time is more important because the second day I have again another important meeting, so I will be able to really think about it. Then you're talking about feasibility one actually. Yeah. Then again the decision comes. But this is how you zero down um, to all this thing, the implementation. Then finally you go and just be inside train or flight, and then finally you reach Delhi, and then you do your work. So that's it. But again, coming to pre-feasibility, not to forget, in all these two steps, you try to involve one expert with you. If you have experts from internal source, nothing like it. But if you need someone help from mentorship point of view or on success basis, don't hesitate to take the help, because whosoever will come, he will bring a lot of experience, yeah? And this will help you to really go from stage A to stage B, as simple as it. Any question regarding pre-feasibility here? Because AAC is a big one. We can keep talking about AAC itself, the way they model it, the way they come out with mathematical modeling of any pre-feasibility. But that's a separate subject in itself. What I would really emphasize is that go to their website. I think it's aac.org itself. But just have a look. Just write AAC or American Association for Cost Engineering. You'll see. Any question in this? I'm just summarizing. Basically, we are reducing the funnel size. If you can rotate this clockwise by 90 degree, you can see it's nothing but a funnel here. So we are reducing the funnel size, and pre-feasibility is almost at the middle, if I can put it in that manner, and the confidence, how do you say, bond is ranging from -30% to +50%. Yeah? And here you are going with the secondary data only. You're not relying on the primary data, and you should definitely involve an expert. So that's about this slide. Any question, please? Huh? Okay, thank you for sharing. Someone already shared. So if no question, then I'm assuming that you guys are understanding. I'm assuming that you are able to extract at least whatever I'm trying to give you. So let me just go to the next one, because then I will start asking some question, and I would like to hear some out of the box answers as well. But let's see more about the steps. Okay, this was one of the, how do you say, uh, one of the examples, and from mine, I think, and I thought that I will simply put it over here. So the class, what you see at the top, is nothing but what I showed you here. Can you see the class? 5 plus 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah? So that's about the class. Yeah? And then PFS, pre-feasibility study, actually, if I go back, you can see the pre-feasibility study falls under class 4 as defined by ACE. And then you can see they talked about the location, they talked about the maps and survey, soil test and geotechnical, like soil bearing capacity, etc. Preliminary only. Preliminary means that I don't know how many of you know soil bearing capacity. Huh? So it's about the strength of the soil because the whole building, if you want to make it, so you need to know the strength of the soil. And this normally you talk in talk by doing the soil bearing capacity test. Likewise, here is written preliminary. It means that there is some generic data available, and normally you can get this kind of data. That's not a problem. But when you start doing something concrete, then you need to have the accurate data. That's why you see here they wrote preliminary data only, and here they wrote in the definite feasibility study, they wrote final one. So construction support, construction site agreement, delivery strategy, drilling, and blah, blah, blah. So mainly from the mining point of view. But this will give you an overview. What exactly do people normally talk when they are talking from the pre-feasibility point of view? Of course, this is about on-site project, huh? But on-site project is also always like this, that there has to be a front end guys, there has to be a back office support, there has to be financial support, there has to be all kind of support whatsoever we are talking for, also in the take field. But nevertheless, this will be able to give you some low level or some detailed way of thinking what can be done, what cannot be done, what to analyze, what not to analyze. Any question in this? Yeah? Anyway, you'll get the slide and you should go through it, and then you'll have more time to understand. Okay, this is nothing but this is another way of putting whatsoever we talk about here, and everything is linked to another one. So what we were talking in the funnel one, this is also being shown in a different manner. So basically, you talk about the pre-investment phase, you talk about the investment phase, and then you talk about the operating phase. Yeah, and especially whatsoever we are talking right now, we are talking in the pre-investment phase where you need to have a lot of studies. All these things will require a lot of homework, huh? And then you have all kind of pre-feasibility study. You need to also do the feasibility study preparation, etc. But what I really want to emphasize over here is that it's a pre-investment phase. Don't be confused with investment phase and operating phase that will follow. But here we are not spending any money as such. When you're talking about the pre-feasibility, you're spending more time, you're spending more paper, you're trying to get help. But here you don't really pay anyone here. You're trying to really um, extract as much as possible without involving any cost. Only the time is the factor. Otherwise, you are not involved in any cost. As simple as it. Okay, let me go to the next slide now. Okay, I want to show you this or whatsoever we talked, and then I will give you one thought-provoking case study based on one of my very old business models here. Maybe you can tell me something about it. So basically, what we are talking, or we were rather talking, we are talking about a concept which needs to be defined, and not only defined, we need to also see where exactly we are playing our role, because the value chain can be very big, but on which linkage are we really playing the role? Are we playing the role as a manufacturer, distributor, or as a service provider? So let's say there is some, I mean, let's say there is a laptop, HP laptop, and HP is outsourcing their laptop repairing service. So are you just, you know, catering to the repairing service? So you need to really specify your role and scope in general, and then you talk about the pre-feasibility. Then we talk about the boundary condition or the framework which you select, and then you have to justify your selected stuff, as I told you at the beginning, that you really see if it really fits with your company's goal and also with your mission and vision, etc. And then only you, then after you take this step, after you define all these things, then you go more concretely into the feasibility one, where you evaluate the project, where you think about all the approval, etc. And then you go to bank, you go to government, you go to everyone, you submit this report, etc. And then you start implementing it. Then the project management role comes in picture, of course, the construction, etc. Even it's a tech thing, then you start coding, etc. And then once you implement it, then it's a 360-degree kind of thing. Then you do the post-implementation review, whether your project is beneficial or not beneficial, what you thought and what really went good or bad, etc. So that for the future you have a proper document, what is good, what is bad, and you can actually take a feel about the whole thing, knowledge you have anyways. So this is about the whole thing, but let's stick to the pre-feasibility, selection framework and selection justification. This is one of the concepts which I floated long ago in 2008. Modi Saab also talked about this. It's called Gobar Bank. At the beginning, everyone used to laugh on it. I still remember my first meeting with Modi Saab, and he said, "Do whatever you want to do." He was in state. I was lucky, actually, and he was quite visionary. Yeah. So the proposal was very simple. What we were actually telling him, that India has got a decentralized manner of cattle handling, and the supply chain of cow dung is a big problem. So what we said, that let's talk about a concept called Gobar Bank. So like in a bank, people will come with cattle dung, and then they will deposit it in our bank, and we'll do a passbook entry. And with this dung, we'll generate biogas and fertilizer, and will supply the biogas by pipeline. You have to imagine, in the middle of nowhere. This lady became very famous, by the way. A Discovery Channel also came, and they took her interview, and she was almost in all the channels. Nevertheless, and then we said that the fertilizer can be utilized um, for the organic cropping. And what we realized, that in Gujarat, this happened in Gujarat, by the way, in Big Budruk. And what we realized in Gujarat, there is something called vermicomposting, which is very famous. Although technically speaking, I can directly use the slurry coming out of, you can see the slurry coming out of the biogas plant, and this would have resulted in the same thing, instead of taking it through the vermicomposting as such, because it's almost digested. But nevertheless, it still refines a little bit. And this was the whole concept. What we proposed a boot model to the government. Boot is build, own, operate, transfer. So we said we will build it, we'll form a committee who will operate it, we will own it till the time we get our return, and then we'll transfer it to the local committee. We didn't want to transfer it to the panchayat. But nevertheless, uh, this is the concept. I just want to understand, if you have to do such kind of thing, what will be the, specifically from pre-feasibility point of view. Let's say I say that, can you do this in your village? By the way, I could not do this outside Gujarat. I tried in a village near Kanpur, and the people even came out with gun and everything. So that's why I'm emphasizing about social engineering part very much. It has to be socially very much acceptable. But nevertheless, can you tell me what are the points which you'll consider in pre-feasibility of such kind of plant? I hope you understood the concept. Concept is very simple. I think the gobar gas thing. You have the dung and you make biogas, and you can use this biogas in your kitchen, and you get fertilizer as well from the plant, and you do the what do you say, organic agriculture or the cropping, and you try to model out the whole thing. So you have to model it out technically, financially, and socially. Can you tell me what are the questions normally you'll ask or you'd like to ask from pre-feasibility point of view? Don't forget what we thought today, or what we talked about today. You need to consider all this point. If you can answer, I will be more than happy that at least you got the gist about the stuffs which we are talking about it, and it's more about the systematic thinking now, more about the feel as well. So, what are the points which you will consider at first when you want to implement such kind of plant? Very good, land. Just to tell you, we took the land from panchayat. The land used to belong to panchayat, and the committee which we formed, the committee used to pay the rent for the land, but the land used to be of panchayat. Very good. Land. What else? Come on, think about it, huh? Do you know what's the whole war nowadays all about? It's all about the raw material. Any war you think, land is feasible for environmentally, socially, social acceptance. Social acceptance is a very wider term. I will talk a little bit about it, but very good. But I would like to know understandable technical acceptance, financial viability, and even acceptance if they can pay and if they cannot pay, and the social. This acceptance must be there. But what are the questions which you need to consider concretely? Technology used and experts, resource availability. Very good. That's the thing. You are talking about a village. In village, the resources are not very much available, or some of them are available. So let's talk about technical resources. If I make it very complicated, very high tech, and if something happens to that, let's say some failure is there, some sensor fails, who will go and really repair in the remote village? If someone will go, then he will charge like anything. So will this plant be able to afford that? Resource availability, of course. What else? What else will you consider when you talk about such kind of plant from the pre-feasibility point of view? I hope my question is clear. Target market, of course. One of the again, so we model it out. I like the Hindi word more than English word, but there's something called symbiotic relationship. In Hindi, we call it sahajivta. So I'm dependent on someone, and someone is dependent on us. So the raw material supplier is dependent on us. Sorry, we are dependent on raw material supplier from biogas point of view, but the raw material supplier are dependent on us from the gas point of view. So in case they increase the raw material price, I will increase the gas price. So, so that's why I use the word sahajita, the symbiotic relationship. But definitely, the consumer is very, very, very important. Target market is very important. But this was one of the modeling which we did from social point of view in the pre-feasibility stage itself. Support system to be created. Yeah, of course. I don't know what you mean, but if you mean the manpower support, definitely the manpower support needs to be created. And the rural engineering or the social engineering is very beautiful, and I almost cried. In fact, I am telling you. So if you involve a guy from day zero in rural India, believe me, this guy will never leave the job, never leave the plant, and just because he will consider this plant as if it's his own baby. So the resource or the support system in village or the whole dynamics work in a very different manner. Collecting dung nearby village even after 10 years. Collection of dung, of course, of course. So short-term planning, long-term planning, because ultimately the raw material, that's what I was telling you, raw material is the key. So the raw material availability has to be ensured. So that's a good point. So at that time, we made it multi-feed. So even though dung is not available, but if you have kitchen waste, if you have agriculture waste, so that also could be considered. Transportation availability. I think you mean transportation availability of the raw material. If yes, then we did in two manner, because village was not so big. People used to come and give us the dung like this, but we also came up with sorry, some local entrepreneurs who could make the collection center, and on their bullock cart itself they used to bring the dung. But of course, transportation availability, business ecosystem between biogas plant and villages, of course. So basically here we got 80% from the government, 10% we put, and 10% had to come from the villagers. But all of you can imagine, villagers will never give you money. But what villagers could give the shramdan. They could actually work for the plant, and at the end we had to give more money actually to the villagers because they worked more than what was required. But that was one of the financial modeling which we did. um, SHGs and apex body support to create the sustainability. Of course, self-help groups are always better, and very active, and it depends on which village you are. But my personal experience is very good. Self-help groups are really, really very active. Executive and device transportation. Yes, device transportation is one thing, and more than device transportation, because at the beginning you can do everything to take the device over there and to or you construct. But the operation and maintenance part is more important of the devices, and that's why you need to be sure that you are making the system very simple and robust, so that the local villages can take care of the small rectification. Should consider already existing dung seller among villages who is affected by ban. So basically, when you do the social modeling, this is very good actually. Again, this point is very good. All these are pre-feasibility points. I'm happy to see. Of course, then it should not happen that on one hand you are doing something, but on other hand there will be a social imbalance. And you see, this was exactly my point: the social feasibility. And this is what you do at the beginning. How much dung is available or extra dung is available? What are they doing with the dung at the moment? Will they be selling to you, or will they not be interested? So many times it happens in India that you put the industry just by assuming that the raw material is very cheap in that area. But as soon as you come out with the industry, people say, now industry is there, so they will be forced to pay any price I will ask, and this is how the raw material price normally shoots up, and which is not good. That's why I use the word symbiotic or symbiosis or symbiotic relationship, because here both consumer and supplier are interlinked, and which is one of the beautiful things. But definitely the existing dung sellers mapping is required in case this is valid for that particular village. Yes, please. What else? Parallel system dairy farming also could be created if there are many cows. Of course, I'm just talking about one vertical. So basically, this was one of my point at the beginning, that you need to consider the whole value chain. So if I consider the value chain of let's say cattle, then you are right. Then what is happening with the milk? What is happening with other thing? This is a very beautiful point what you are saying, but I wanted to play a role only towards the cow dung or cattle dung only. But of course, the dairy is another vertical which can be considered separately. But here, the role was definitely confined towards cow dung only. In this particular place, Amul was, or it was Sumul actually, Surat Milk Union Limited. It was under Amul only, and they were collecting the milk, so the system was already in place. Very good. Organic and safe farming by vermicomposting. I mean, at the beginning, all these farmers, they were really hesitant and they were not very sure what they are doing or what we are doing. But after 3 years, the local gingers which they were producing, they could fetch 3 times more money than they were actually earlier getting. And they were more than happy when I used to go to that village afterwards. They were welcoming like anything. So definitely organic farming, etc. The implementation is a challenge all the time, especially at the beginning. But definitely that caters to the sector of whole organic thing, organic food, what we are talking at the moment. Okay, I think good. We are good to go to the next slide, and then I think there are only a couple of slides. We just have less than 10 minutes left, so I will finish it, and then if you still have some question, I would love to answer that. So anyway, we already talked about it, all the steps. Um, this was another product. So what we did, we converted the 40-feet container, even the 20-feet old shipping container, into a biogas plant, and we put the biogas balloon. You can see, and then we even went for the hybrid. Someone was talking about hybrid at the beginning here. We even took help of solar photovoltaic and windmill, but the time was a problem, to be honest. I did it in 2009, and for 6 years actually, I could not even sell one. It was not at all possible. Then in 2015, someone came to me and he said that, you already have a product. Why don't you license to me? And then this guy could really ensure that almost all the how do you say railway station in India, of course, still there are many which are missing. He started putting in Jaipur, he started putting in Tumkur, in Delhi, there, it's at metro. Then he started putting it like anything. But at that time, the mistake which I personally did, I considered everything, but I didn't consider time. It was quite ahead of time. What was the organization registration to? I didn't get your question. What was the organization registration to do this? What is not profit? Not profit organization, NGO, just write NPO or NGO. They do all the work not with the motive of profit. They want to run the organization from charity point of view, like Akshay Patra, like ISKCON. These are not for profit. So you guys, I think you have private limited or partnership or I don't know, LLP. So these are for profits. At the end of the year, in your balance sheet, you have a profit, and which you share among your shareholder in a limited manner. It depends on the company policy. But that's a different question. So maybe you can keep writing your question. I will take at the end. I would not like to jump from the main one, but keep writing the question. But I will answer it after the after a couple of slides now. Okay. Anyway, I was talking about this bio box. One of the problems with me was that when I did the pre-feasibility, I didn't consider that it's well ahead of time. I didn't consider any government help, which was good in fact. But the time was a crucial factor where I personally failed. And now it's not a problem. Now it's even in this is the upgraded version of this is also installed in Rashtrapati Bhavan in President House. In Noida, almost every sector is going to have this one. Already they have installed three such units in Noida itself, the upgraded one actually. Yeah. But this was ahead of the time. So you need to be very practical in pre-feasibility stage itself, that the idea which you are going to float, it should not happen that you are way ahead of the time. If it happens, then perhaps people will appreciate you. Maybe you get a lot of articles in newspaper and everywhere. But at the end of the day, the success for an entrepreneur is defined from the money point of view. I still remember in 2009, there was a competition, Power of Ideas, and I put this idea, and I won that competition. And the whole page of Economic Times, my photo was there. I was very happy. Okay, something very very good. And when I could not sell it, it was almost like a bankruptcy. And then I understood that it's better to talk as a successful businessman instead of talking and just creating a big noise. So that was another thing. So in pre-feasibility, you have to be very, very, very practical. That's as simple as it, and that's the whole idea of putting this slide. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm at the end of the slide now, and it's almost like a summary of whatever we talked again and again and again from pre-feasibility point of view. But here the thinking, what we are emphasizing is that you need to think critically. You need to start You need to really analyze the external and internal factors. You need to really see your strategy from the business point of view. At the same time, you need to talk about the corporate strategy here. You need to talk about implementation strategy and everything. There can be many other factors which you can incorporate. But the question which you need to ask to yourself: Can business risk be minimized by pre-feasibility? Why? Why not? So, with this question and these points, actually, I would like to end my presentation with a great line of Mahatma. Common sense is the realized sense of proportion. So I would say when you are talking about the sense of proportion, and this is what pre-feasibility stands for. This is what actually at the end of the day the whole business idea stands for. That you have to have a, realized sense of proportion, and that's what is called common sense many times. Yeah. So with this, I will end my formal presentation. Thanks for your patient listening. And whatever question you have, maybe I can take the question. So please start typing into it. If you already wrote something, I would like to have a look. Same like steam engine, as its inventor had waited for 11 years after developing product. Of course, I mean, see, when you're talking about 100 years before or something, yeah, the time was very different. I don't think we can compare it with the present time, but the lesson we can learn, and then we can ensure that we don't do the same mistake. That's why the case studies are there. So agree with you, but I think now you can move really fast in comparison to that time. So that's one of the main difference. After refinement and compression, biogas still contains impurity. Someone asked a technical question about biogas. So just to tell you, biogas, normally you take out the CO2 and then you take out H2S and moisture. If you have ammonia, then you take it out. So the process is very established. And I was telling you that Government of India launched this 75,000 crore package around 2.5 years ago. So this bio CNG is very established now. I was one of the very lucky one. I brought this technology to India 11 years ago. Kalamji personally came and checked everything here near Baroda. So we were more than happy to do that. But BioCNG, the technology is established very much. There is nothing from the technology point of view. If you want to see any of the plant, you can just write me an email. You can see my email ID over here. We'll be more than happy to make sure that you visit one BioCNG plant. But that's not the topic for today. Yes, please. Any other questions? Okay. So if you don't have any question, then it's already 1 o'clock. So I'd like to thank you again. But still, in case you have any question, feel free to write me an email. Email is always a better way to communicate, especially for me. Please feel free, and I wish you all the best. And just once again, I'm repeating the same sentence with what I started. I hope you got a feel about the whole pre-feasibility thing. Think it in a very practical manner. Apply the knowledge, and just be brave enough to say no in case if it doesn't fit with your boundary conditions. It's as simple as it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We are very grateful for your time and for share your thoughts. We love to connect with you again. Thank you
Sure.
very much. If anyone having any questions, so you guys can drop a mail to sir directly. So have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, everyone.